Hello. What shall we talk about today? I've already decided. Years ago, I wrote down in this notebook, yeah, pictures and different things. This is a long time ago. This is from the 70s, 80s. Back then I wasn't writing dates on everything like I do now, but colors. Now I write, I got tons of notebooks and I put dates, this and everything. But today, what I want to talk about is a weird coincidence of things. More colors. Here's a picture I did a long time ago. I call it Marlin Picasso. Anyway. This time to fight guy. I just can't go. Anyway. So anyway, this coincidence I want to talk about, something I titled Irony in this book, is about, it's about the Beatles, and it's about Charles Manson and Rosemary's Baby. So let's talk about that. First I'm going to read what I wrote here. I totally forgot that I wrote this, so I'm going to read it. Irony. Christians were opposed both to the Beatles and rock music. Well, yeah, back in the day, I mean, I'm not saying all Christians, but there were people, burning in the South the Beatles records, and there was a lot of uproar about rock. I remember when I was little, even people who weren't religious were against it, or just didn't like it. Even James Bond, we didn't like the Beatles. It's in Thunderball, I think, where he takes a jab at them. If you watch it, you'll see. And my grandparents, they thought rock music was just a bunch of noise, repetitive noise, and they were entertainers too. They were in vaudeville. Their name was Sherman and Wallace. They knew Bob Hope back in the day before he was big, and they'd point out all these people on TV and movies that they used to work with, but they never went to California to get into the movies, so they stayed in the Midwest. Anyhow, so there were people thought rock was evil, and then I remember people talking about those backward masking and secret messages and all that. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway. So Charles Manson, remember him? He was the leader of these murderous and horrible people. Charles Manson said he was getting messages from the Beatles on their records and close listening and backward playing of them. So he was playing them backwards and claiming he was getting messages. The Rolling Stones came to America because of the Beatles' popularity, and they produced an album titled At Their Satanic Majesty's Request. That doesn't sound like something good guys would do. Charles Manson killed Sharon Tate via his disciples. Sharon Tate was the wife of Roman Polanski, director of Rosemary's Baby, filmed in an apartment building in New York City. John Lennon bought that building and was killed in front of it by a man who traveled straight across the country from Hawaii to do it. So I drew this little diagram here. I thought I'd drawn a better one, a more symmetrical one somewhere. I don't know where it is. I didn't look closely enough through this, but maybe it's in here. Who knows? But anyway, so I'll start at Rosemary's Baby. That was a movie about this woman. She gives birth supposedly to the devil or the Antichrist or something. But anyway, there was a movie, Rosemary's Baby, directed by Roman Polanski. Roman Polanski was married to Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate was murdered by followers of Charles Manson. Charles Manson said he was getting messages from the Beatles, records, secret messages, I guess only meant for him. The Beatles were led by John Lennon. John Lennon was killed in front of his apartment at the Dakota, the apartment building in New York City. The Dakota is where Rosemary's Baby was filmed. Rosemary's Baby was directed by Roman Polanski, so they were on full circle again. Isn't that weird? I'm thinking, I'm weird. I am. And go backwards too. Rosemary's Baby, filmed at the Dakota apartment building, in front of which John Lennon was killed. John Lennon was the leader of the Beatles. He was an inspiration to Charles Manson, who ordered the killing of Sharon Tate, who was the wife of Roman Polanski, who directed Rosemary's Baby. So it's just weird how these things, how this circle connects. It's just, I find it very strange. What is that? Is it just coincidence? Am I just connecting dots? Am I seeing pictures in clouds that are just pictures that aren't real things? Anyway, I just always thought this was interesting, and I thought I'd share it. There's others. For instance, I remember I bought a long time ago these books by Winston Churchill, The History of the English-Speaking People. There's a set of, I don't know, 4 or 5 books. I still haven't finished it. I'm terrible. I start books and often don't finish them, but I love books. The most recent book that I read straight through pretty much, day after day without stopping until it was done was Philip K. Dick's book, Do Electric Sheep Dream of... No, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Really good book. I had no idea at the time when I read it that the movie Blade Runner, which I've never seen, was based on it. Now I want to see it. I've seen like clips from it, and it doesn't strike me visually as how I imagined the book to be. But it was a really good book anyway. But anyway, so these books by Winston Churchill, I remember reading through them, and that I think this is in the book. Either I read this in his book or I read this about Winston Churchill. He was a descendant of John Churchill, who had abandoned the king. Was it James? It was that whole Jacobite thing, and that's another confusing thing. The name James and Jacob and Jaime and Diego, and I think and they're all supposedly the same name. There's even another one. And how can Diego be equivalent to James and be equivalent to Jacob? I don't know. Maybe you know. Anyhow, so this Jacobite rebellion, this King James wanted to be king, and he had followers, and other party did not want him to be. Anyway, so this John Churchill, who was some nobleman, maybe not so noble, abandoned this James in the midst of battle, I guess, and James did not become king. And his followers, the Jacobites, were persecuted, I guess, and fled, and some fled to America. And a descendant of these people who fled, the Jacobites who fled England, was General George S. Patton, who was a great American general in World War II. So I thought that was interesting. That look at that. So back in the day, this Churchill abandons his James. Hundreds of years later, this other Churchill, Winston Churchill, is getting help. England is being saved basically by the help of God and the Americans, who God was kind enough to use us in that. Anyway, we were blessed in that, thank God. It didn't turn out the other way, which would be another Philip K. Dick book, The Man in the High Tower, which is about what if Hitler had won. I just started reading it. I haven't got very far. My daughter recommended it. But anyway, isn't that interesting? So yeah, Churchill and his James, let's say Jacobus, make it more consistent. So it was John Churchill, his descendant Winston Churchill, was his Jacobus, his King James. The descendant of his followers is General Patton, who helps this other Churchill, and the whole Kingdom of England to be saved. Wow. Talking about repaying evil with good, huh? Anyhow, there's probably millions of circles and circles within circles, and I can't get into them all. But I just thought I'd share that because I thought that was interesting how the Beatles Rosemary baby thing comes to a circle. Is that, what is that? Is it just a coincidence, or is that karma, or anything? Anyhow, till next time, I hope you enjoyed this. A little food for thought, just for entertainment purposes. I could say that. Oh, by the way, have you ever read what was it, Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis? There's a preface in there where he's talking about, this really happened, but I'm writing it as fiction just to get it out there. And I think that's fictitious too. I don't think it really happened, but did it? Anyhow, another story for another time. Hope it was fun. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye.